had a range of about 45 kilometers, and it had a yield power of about 1 to 15 kiloton. For example, it played a very important role in deterring the forward, you can say, attack by each other. For example, the mechanized forces of the Soviet Union were deterred by the NATO after deploying these artillery shells. So artillery shells played a very important role in the Cold War, just to stop the attack from each other. Soviet Union also developed such capabilities, and both countries, both blocs actually developed these capabilities. On the other side, they also developed nuclear landmines in the Cold War. Now, nuclear landmines are just like the other landmines, conventional landmines, for example, just to deter the infantry or advancing forces. And nuclear landmines did the same work. They were aimed to deter the advancing mechanized forces of the enemy, and of course the infantry, APCs, armored personnel carriers, so they cannot quickly attack the other side. So the idea was these nuclear landmines were buried in the forward lines, and it was not that easy for either bloc to cross that border because of these nuclear landmines. So if they cross, obviously it would have a serious impact on the invading forces, and because they are tactical, so their impact would not be that lethal and that huge. So these nuclear landmines also worked, and they were also known as atomic demolition munitions, also known as nuclear landmines. They are small nuclear explosive devices, and they were buried in the forward battle area, meant to block the enemy advance, their tanks, their APCs, armored personnel carriers, their mechanized infantry, actually. So the idea was to put hold on their mechanized advance. On the other side, both countries also developed depth charges. Now, depth charges are actually, they are also, it is a nuclear equivalent of conventional depth charge, for example, and can be used in anti-submarine warfare for attacking submerged submarines. Their application is at the maritime domain. So these things were developed, these capabilities were developed, which could target the enemy underground, or you can say submerged submarines, जो आप those होती है ना उसको target करने के लिए. So you can drop depth charges by ships, by patrol aircraft, and helicopters. For example, let me show you that United States of America developed a depth charge, which was a you can say nuclear weapon type of thing. Its name was Mark 90, nicknamed Betty, and this was developed in the Cold War just to target the Soviet nuclear submarines. So it was a very, very important thing in the early 1950s. It had a yield power of about 32 kilotons, and the idea and the objective was to target the submarines of the enemy. So it played a very important role. It could be dropped by ship, and it can simply destroy enemies' submarines underwater. So such capabilities could be dropped by ship. As I told you before, you can drop these capabilities by helicopters. So this was a capability which seriously deterred each other from attacking each other. Now the another capability was Mark 45. It was also anti-submarine torpedo, and torpedoes purpose is also you can say its efficacy is on the maritime domain. So iska bhi jo idea hai, that was just to target the submarines of the enemy. Now let me tell you that Soviet Union and America developed huge, you can say, submarines. Like for example, 72 submarines by the Soviet Union, 71 submarines by the United States of America, and all these submarines were nuclear submarines. And obviously, because both had a huge distance to cover, and they were also deployed huge, in a huge distance. They were fall apart from each other. So they needed such capabilities which can remain underwater for months, and it had long-range weapons as well. So they developed nuclear submarines. So when they developed nuclear submarines, automatically both sides also developed torpedoes, both also developed depth charges,